This episode of the School Zone podcast is brought to you by School Spirit Vending, hassle-free year-round fundraising for your school. At School Spirit Vending, we do all the work. You cash the check. Hey, School Zone podcast listeners. Matt Miller coming at you from beautiful Stephenville, Texas today. And I'm excited to have our guest on today, none other than Mr. Jeremy Barnhart of Apex Fun Run. Jeremy's a co-owner and vice president of franchise development for Apex, which started in business in 2012. He's married with 3 sons, coaches football, basketball, and baseball for and with them. Jeremy has a background in a variety of other business ventures as well, and has a accounting background previously also, all the way back to actually working with Deloitte and Touche for a while. So anyway, excited to have you on, Jeremy, to share about Apex Fun Run and the possibilities for the educators, administrators, and volunteers within our audience. Thanks for hopping on.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity.
So give us a little background on you and how in the heck, a guy with a finance background and an accounting background came to be one of the co-owners and founders of a school fundraising company.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fun story. We really kind of started and created our company out of a combination of both need and passion. We've actually been serving schools for 5 years now, and here in Arizona as well as there in Texas, where you're headquartered. We've been franchising the business for about 3 years now, but have been serving schools for 5. What we really started is, I mentioned, out of a combination of need and passion. As you well know, fundraising is a necessary evil of schools all over America, whether public or private. And the industry has not really changed or evolved a lot over the last 30, 40, 50 years. And we saw that there was a huge need because of budget cuts all over the country in educational funding. Because of my 3 sons going through it, it was an area that we had dealt with. My wife, when she became a stay-at-home mom after we had our second son, became the PTO president at the kids' school and said, you know what, if I'm going to be doing fundraising, I want to do it my way. I'm not interested in selling unhealthy products like cookie dough and candy bars and butter braids anymore. And we're really looking for something that could get more bang for the buck for the school. At the same time, my business partner and co-founder, Scott Donnell, was going through the issue with his wife, Amy, who's been a first grade teacher for quite a few years. And she had actually come home from school on her first day of school about 5-6 years ago now, and had to spend about $500 on supplies for her classroom. When she got home, Scott had that logical question of, well, Jesus, is the school going to reimburse you for that? And she said, no, unfortunately they're not. That because of the budget cuts, the school didn't have the money to supply the teachers with everything they needed. And that's a story that I'm sure you've heard that happens all over the country, is teachers coming out of pocket for their supplies. And at that time, Scott was like, well, that's not fair. Let's try to find a solution. And so he started looking at the fundraising industry at the same time that we were looking at it, and he realized there was a big gap there. He started looking at those product-based fundraisers and saw that there were really 3 core issues that we wanted to be able to change and address. The first was the fact that with typical product-based fundraisers, the money doesn't usually go directly to an individual teacher. As you all know, it many times goes to the PTO or PTA, the group of volunteer parents who helps raise money at a school, and they allocate the funds as they deem appropriate for maybe playground equipment or a technology room. But the money doesn't always make its way to an individual teacher, and because of our passion for that, we wanted to change it. My father taught outside of Chicago for 43 years, and Scott's father was a principal in Seattle, Washington for many years. And so we wanted to be able to help teachers as well as helping students in schools. And so with Apex Fun Run, 10% of the funds raised in a classroom go directly to the teacher so that they've got skin in the game and a direct benefit, which is pretty unusual in the fundraising industry. And as you can imagine, because of that, teachers support and endorse our program unlike any other. The second issue we saw in the industry was the fact that many of those fundraisers in the product-based industry don't usually benefit a student. They kind of turn them into little door-to-door salespeople. And we wanted something that could directly benefit the students as well. And so with Apex Fun Run, we're teaching students leadership skills and fitness awareness, things that will hopefully impact them for a lifetime. And then the third piece we saw was really the money side. With many product-based fundraisers, the school doesn't raise a lot because they only get a very small percentage of the funds. And so we wanted to change that model. And so with Apex Fund Run, the school gets the majority of the funds. And the average school that we serve across America right now nets about $23,000 from our 2-week hassle-free fundraiser, which is usually double or triple what that respective school has ever raised, and is enough money that allows them to have our fundraiser be the only fundraiser in either the fall or the spring semester, no longer needing to kind of nickel and dime parents with fundraisers throughout the whole school year. So we kind of started off with that need and the passion that we had for education and fitness. I played sports in college. Scott played sports in college. My wife played sports in college. And as you mentioned before, I coached my 3 boys. And so we wanted this opportunity to create a business that really changed communities by not only helping schools raise much needed funds, but also building leaders and creating a fitness focus in an area where that's lacking. As you well know, because of budget cuts in schools, many schools across America no longer have physical education in their schools. And so not only are kids not getting that fitness focus, but they're also then being fed many unhealthy products to raise money for their schools, which create a vicious cycle. And so Apex Fund was created to fill that need.
So, Jeremy, let's take those 3 points then and break them down a little bit. First off, I think the teacher piece is brilliant. That's the first I've heard of anybody doing that, and I think, man, talk about hitting a huge need. We've all heard about situations similar to Scott's wife Amy's situation, and can relate to that. My parents were both teachers. In fact, I grew up outside of Chicago as well. Where were you guys in the Chicago area?
I grew up near Rockford.
Okay, well, I grew up in DeKalb and Sycamore, Illinois. In fact, the mall, Cherryvale Mall in Rockford, was kind of our place to go hang out when I was growing up.
we might have crossed paths. My father actually taught at NIU in DeKalb for a while, as well as at Kishwaukee College, that's right there, right next to where you grew up. And I've got cousins in Sycamore.
Yeah, my dad lettered in soccer at NIU. My mom graduated from there as well. In fact, I wanted to go to school away from home, so I didn't go to NIU. I was fortunate to get to go to school elsewhere. But man, talk about a small world. Okay, guys. So anyway, we've been reminiscing now about our years growing up. But man, talk about a small world. So, how does the whole teacher piece work? Do they kind of, I guess, coach a team with their kids, and then are all the kids like competing against each classroom, competing against one another, or is it just purely the teacher manages the fundraising portion and motivates and gives support to the kids? I mean, explain a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So one of the other uniquenesses about our model is we're a hassle-free fundraiser. So we actually do all the work so that schools don't have to. That's one of the issues with a lot of the fundraisers out there, is that it requires a lot of PTO, parent volunteers. And so we wanted to be able to take that burden off of their shoulders and also make it something that did not create any additional burden for the teachers. So we actually bring a team of 3 athletes onto the campus who does the 2-week program, teaching the leadership and fitness skills and reinforcing those during recess and PE. And so it really does not create any burden for the teacher at all. They really are just merely there to support our efforts and our program. And because of the fact that they have skin in the game and they see the value of our leadership and fitness curriculum, it really adds a lot of discipline to a school. We hear that during the 2 weeks that we're on a campus that schools have less disciplinary actions than normal because of our team being there, and they have higher attendance than normal because the students love seeing the Apex team. We bring a team of young 21 to 30-year-old ex-college athletes who are really positive role models onto the campus, and it changes the energy and changes the vibe, and teachers don't have anything they have to do other than smile on their face supporting those Apex athletes.
So are they actually scheduling then like assembly time for them, or are they literally just out there in the kids, if they have a PE class or if they have recess time? I mean, how does all that work into the school schedule with those guys there?
Sure. So we start off the program by doing a teacher huddle where we get the teachers together and explain the benefits of the program and what's going to happen and the benefit to them directly. We then schedule the times that we're going to visit each teacher's classroom each day. So it's part of their schedule, not just a surprise drop-in. Then each day of the program, an athlete will be dropping into that classroom for just 8 to 10 minutes where they're going to teach that day's leadership and fitness curriculum. Before they leave the classroom, they refocus the students on their teacher, which is kind of the discipline piece of it. And so it's really a built-in system that they love. It creates a little bit of a brain break, gets the kids focused on something unique that they hadn't been thinking. As you probably well know, these days teachers are many times forced to teach to the test because most states have those state testing requirements. They've got a very tight curriculum, and so we're able to fill a gap where we're teaching leadership and fitness that they maybe didn't get otherwise. And our leadership and fitness curriculum is designed so that every year it's new and different. And every year we have a new theme and a new curriculum with new lessons that are all character-based, fitness-based, based on input from teachers and parents and administrators all over the country. As an example, this year our theme is Apex Dream Team. We're teaching kids to be dreamers and to go after their dreams. And our leadership and fitness curriculum is then based on the acronym of the word DREAM. So on the D-Day, the athletes teach them that good leaders dive in. They go after their dreams, they look at big dreams, and they go all in to accomplish those dreams. On the R-Day, they teach them that good leaders are resourceful, that they apply the 5, the who, what, why, where, when, to be able to solve problems and be good leaders. On the E-Day, we teach them that good leaders elevate others, that they find people's strengths and build them up, which is our current year anti-bullying theme. We always have an anti-bullying theme, which parents love. On the A-Day, we're teaching them that good leaders sometimes need an attitude check, that we all roll up on the wrong side of bed some days, but we control our attitude, and sometimes you need to push the button and have a hard reset and start the day with a positive attitude. Then on the M-Day, we teach them that leaders make a difference, that the little decisions you make each day can make a difference in your world, not only in your homes, in your schools, in your communities, but that even as young students, that they too can make a difference by making a decision to help their teacher or to help the parents by taking out the garbage without being asked or just being nice to people. And so the kids really embrace that curriculum and find ways to apply the traits. We have a little cube that's in each classroom that has each of those leadership lessons and traits on it. And when a teacher sees a student exhibit one of those, they get to sign it. And when the Apex team member comes into the classroom, that student is acknowledged for what they did. And they encourage the other students in the classroom to say, what did Johnny or Tommy do to be a leader today? And they really build each other up, and it creates a great positive environment in the schools.
Wow, that's incredible. Hey, Jeremy, we're going to take a short break real quick, and we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
Are you an educator, administrator, or school volunteer looking for a simpler way to raise money for your school? Let School Spirit Vending put their hassle-free year-round fundraising program to work for you. School Spirit Vending. We do all the work. You cash the check. Go to schoolspiritVending.com/school zone for all the details.
All right, we're back with Jeremy Barnhart of Apex Fun Run. We were talking kind of about the 3 differentiators, I guess, that Apex brings to the table on the school fundraising side. We talked a little bit about the teachers and their skin in the game and the benefit that they get. We talked a little bit about the leadership and fitness awareness. Let's talk a little bit about the third point, the fact that the school gets the majority of funds. How does that kind of compare to the traditional product-based fundraiser as far as that's concerned?
So we typically raise double or triple for schools what they've ever raised before, for a variety of reasons. One is that we get the entire school engaged, and it's an all-inclusive program. Many product-based fundraisers, not every student participates, and with our program, every student benefits. We're teaching them leadership and fitness. They're all participating in the fun run at the end, and they're potentially getting pledges per lap to raise money for the school. Now, even if students don't raise money individually, they're still benefiting from it. They're still getting a race jersey they get to keep as a memento of the race that has the current year theme on the front, so the Apex Dream Team this year. On the back, it has a race track with 1 through 36 boxes that they mark off each lap that they run at the fun run. But one of the things that really gets us to raise more money than other programs is our technology solution. We have a really sophisticated website so that when we get students excited at the beginning of the program, we send them home with what we call a pledge kit. Pledge kit's about a 3x6, 5-page laminated booklet that explains our entire program to the parents. Talks about our Apex Fun Run mission, where we want to build leaders and teach fitness to students. But it also gives them a sight to the fact that we have a give back program where we also give back to local charities along the way. We're not only teaching leadership, but also trying to lead by example. Gives them a 5-part game plan to think about people they can get pledges from for the fun run, and even gives them a script to use when asking for those pledges. But the piece that really differentiates us, again, is our technology. When they go home with that pledge kit, it has a unique access code on it that's specific to that individual student. That then allows them to go into our apexfunrun.com website, log in with that unique access code, and create their own page on our website. From that page, we have a technology called ShareWizard. With ShareWizard, they're able to then send out emails, text messages, videos, Facebook messages, Twitter messages to their friends and family all over the world, explaining that they're having an Apex Fun Run at their school to raise money for, let's say, a technology room, and would they please pledge them per lap. It explains that they're going to run between 26 and 36 laps. That way the sponsor knows their maximum exposure when they're making that per lap donation. And those pledges are then logged into that student's account on the back end of our website and accumulated for money raised purposes as well as prize purposes. So as you can imagine, we're raising money from previously untapped sources. If you have grandma and grandpa who are retired in Florida, they're probably not going to buy cookie dough or come to the fall festival or the rubber chicken auction dinner. But they'll pledge their grandson or granddaughter $1 per lap for a fun run that's a good cause at their school. And so it allows us to just raise money from previously untapped sources and raise much more money than any other fundraiser out there. Now the kids are incentivized because, again, as I mentioned, they actually can earn prizes for those pledges. So if they get to $1 per lap pledge, they get a prize, $2 per lap, $3, $5, $8, $10, $15, $20, $30, and $50 per lap. So if they're able to accumulate $50 per lap in pledges, they've also accumulated 10 awesome prizes that they're excited about while raising a ton of money for their school as well. So at the end of the day, between everything that we're investing into a campus, between the leadership and fitness lessons, the athletes that are on the campus all day, every day for 2 weeks, which is like having 3 extra PE teachers, the race jerseys that every student receives, the prizes that they're receiving, and all the money they get, over 80% of the money is going back into the school in the form of cash, product, and service, which is far in excess to most fundraisers in America, which is what makes it an easy decision for a school to do an Apex Fun Run. And it just makes for a great win-win all the way around.
Talk a little bit about what's the ideal school for you guys? What's the ideal candidate to be giving you guys a call and wanting to work with you?
You know, we can really serve any school. That's our goal, is to really be able to build leaders and help schools raise money all over America regardless of their demographics. As you can imagine, there are schools of every shape and size, whether urban, suburban, or otherwise, and we actually have programs available for all of those schools that allow them to have an amazing fundraiser and be able to teach their students leadership and fitness. We also have a leadership-only program that we offer to certain schools that may not have the ability or even the desire to do the fundraising component, but really still need the leadership in their schools. We come in and have the ability to mentor some of those children who maybe don't have a lot of positive role models in their lives, and we can help teachers by identifying those students who need a little extra and be able to pull them to the side and kind of turn them into leaders and more positive students, as opposed to the kids who maybe spend more time in the office than they do the classroom. And so we really have fundraising and leadership for every school out there.
Way cool. So you guys are a franchise model, Jeremy. What areas do you guys, you mentioned Arizona and Texas. What other areas are you guys currently serving schools? And then talk a little bit more briefly about the franchise side, and if somebody is maybe interested in joining your team that might be listening to the podcast today.
Sure, appreciate that. So we are currently in 19 states. We're headquartered here in Arizona, but we began franchising, as I mentioned, just about 3 years ago, and so I have 72 franchises in 19 states. So we're really kind of all over the country, growing very, very quickly, which makes it a lot of fun. We've been breaking fundraising records for schools all over America, which is really fun to see. And then the leadership and fitness component is huge. We get stories and emails and letters from parents all over the country that would literally bring you to tears over the impact that we've had on students in their schools and how they've changed the way they treat their parents and their siblings and looking for opportunities to be leaders where they weren't otherwise before. And so it's a rare opportunity to be able to own a business that not only makes a difference every day by teaching kids leadership and raising money for schools, but also making a living at the same time. So from a franchise perspective, we are registered in all the franchise registration states. We have lots of great territories available in the Midwest, the East, and the South. We're kind of West Coast centric at this point to a degree in the fact that we're headquartered out here, and so most of the West Coast we sold out pretty quickly based on word of mouth. But we do have great opportunities in most of the country at this point, and our franchisees love what they do. They're really proud of what they do. They know every day they've made a difference in their community, and it's a fun business.
So on the franchise side, how do you kind of define, do franchisees have a territory? Is it a certain set number of schools? Or how does that kind of work, just briefly?
Great question. So we define territories based on exclusive zip codes that the franchisee has to themselves, and we then assign a point value to schools based on their percentage of free and reduced lunch. And to those who don't know what that means, that's the percentage of students whose parents qualify for government subsidy, meaning they receive free or reduced cost lunch at school. And that number tells us which program to serve a school with and how much money they can potentially raise, what their costs of serving the school are, and how much they can potentially generate from those schools and provide those schools. And based on that point system, we then allocate a certain number of schools based on the points to an exclusive set of zip codes. The average territory around the country has anywhere from about 100 to 120 schools for them to market to be able to provide our fundraiser or leadership program to.
Before we get contact information, you mentioned just letters and all that type of stuff. Do you have one or two short stories that you can kind of relate the power of your program, that are kind of top of mind that people would get a lot out of?
Absolutely. I think the one that comes to mind first was a young student in the state of California who was at a school who had been recently relocated to that school. This young man had originally grown up in the south side of Chicago and was in an unfortunate situation. Both of his parents had gone to prison. His father, unfortunately, was a drug dealer who shot someone on their front stoop and went to prison. His mother then turned to prostitution to raise money for the family, and she too also went to prison, and they had to relocate this young man to California to live with his grandmother. Well, as you can imagine, because this student had seen and heard things that no one should ever have to see or hear, he was a troubled young man, and his grandmother had her hands full. And so at the new school, he was a problem. He was a bully. He was an unhappy, angry little boy who spent most of his time in the principal's office. Teachers didn't want him in their class. Parents didn't want him in their children's class. And when our team got onto campus, they pretty quickly identified that this young man needed a little boost. And they took him under their wing, and they basically taught him that his past did not have to create his future, that he could do anything he set his mind to, that he had value and that he mattered, and that he could really focus his energies on being a leader and being positive as opposed to being a bully and being negative. And by the end of the first week on campus, he was no longer in the principal's office each day. By the end of the program, he was looking for ways to help his teacher, to help the Apex team members at the fun run, picking up cones and putting things away. And at that fun run, I happened to be there. And the grandmother came up to me and she gave me a huge hug. She was in tears. She said, "I can't thank you enough for what your athletes have done for my grandson." She said they have really turned his mindset around to know that even though he's had a rough past, that he can change that and he can do anything he sets his mind to. And he's now treating me with much more respect. He's looking for opportunities to help me at home. And I can't thank you enough. The principal came up and basically had the same message, that she couldn't believe how he no longer was getting into trouble and was not in her office, and that his teacher had seen a complete change, that he was now focusing on trying to do better in class on his homework, trying to help other students and be inclusive as opposed to being a bully. And that was the impact that we had on that one child in just a 2-week period. And there are thousands of examples like that all over America.
Wow, that's awesome. So, Jeremy, if folks want to get in touch with you to learn more about bringing you into their school or to potentially talk about the franchise side of things, what's the best way to reach out to you guys?
Well, they can give me a call directly at our toll-free number of 855-RUN-APEX, or direct dial is 480-347-0243. They can email me at jeremy@apexfunrun.com. That's JEREMY at apex, APEX, funrun, FUNRUN.com. Or they can check out our website, apexfunrun.com, to learn more about our program and see if we're a good fit for their school.
Jeremy, appreciate your time and your busy schedule. Thanks for sharing with the audience for the School Zone podcast. Take care, man.
Thanks for the opportunity, Matt. Have a great rest of your day.
You too.
This episode of the School Zone podcast is brought to you by School Spirit Vending, hassle-free year-round fundraising for your school. At School Spirit Vending, we do all the work. You cash the check.